Hello, free spirits. You have landed on Metaphysical Hippie Chicks 2.0, your doorway to magic, mystery, and mindful living. Are your loved ones in spirit trying to reach you? In this episode, we dive into the world of signs and messages from the afterlife. Those feathers, numbers, songs, visitation dreams, synchronicities that feel a little too perfect to ignore. You'll discover how to spot these signs, what they mean, and how to open your awareness so you can feel more connected to your loved ones and pets in the spirit world. I'm Susanna Masseri, psychic medium and author, and I'm here with my besties, Annalisa Bastiani, psychic medium, actor, and singer.
Hello. Hello.
And Terry Scalia, ET experiencer with innate abilities for mediumship and channeling. So, hi guys.
Hi.
Hello.
So, we have a lot to talk about. We've had many experiences with those people in spirit and coming and giving us messages and direct contact and so forth. Maybe we should talk about the common ways that spirit shows up, like dreams.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
That leave you knowing that it wasn't just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Have either of you had the visitation dreams? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I have.
Definitely. My grandmother, first of all, my grandmother's probably the direct line of where I get any kind of mediumship talent. And when she passed away, she let everybody know. She was in dreams. She was in, all sorts of movements, and people would find things that was related to her. And with me, she woke me up in the middle of the night and scared the crap out of me. So that was a very different experience, one of my first experiences. But she came to me in a dream, and I usually just write off my dreams because my dreams are, even though I do this work, my dreams are not prophetic. Hers were. But she came to me in a dream. I was in a white room, and there were two Native Americans, a man and a woman, sitting behind a desk, white room, white couch, everything white. It was very strange. I went to talk to them, and they were just cosmos. It looked like stars.
You froze.
Am I still frozen?
No, you said we looked at them, or I looked at them, and then we didn't hear anything else after that.
Okay, I looked at them, and I walked up to them to talk to them. They were in meditation and did not respond to me at all. And then this door opened, and it looked like behind it was the cosmos, just stars. All it was night sky and stars. And in walks my grandmother. And she comes, and I feel her and hug her, and it's all very real. And we sit on the couch, and we talk and talk and talk. And then all of a sudden, the only thing that stood out to me throughout all of the conversation was, you're not going to remember any of this. And I knew it. I said, yeah, I know, but I'm so happy you're here, and this is so great. That's all I remember. We had this huge, long conversation I remember nothing about, and she said, you're not going to remember any of this.
Wow.
And I woke up with this intense, there was no question in my mind that was a visit, because it felt so different from what dreams feel like. It was absolutely a different reality and feeling.
And you'll never forget it.
And I haven't.
Ever.
She died in 1996. Yeah, I know. I remember every detail of it.
And how old were you when that happened?
1996, probably early 20s, mid-20s. Sorry, no, I was probably 28, so late 20s.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have anything that grand, but my father died about, 10 years ago-ish. And I had a dream. He and I were not close, and he was very abusive. So we didn't have a really good relationship, but I dreamt that I was sitting in a theater, and it was completely empty. There was nobody there. And I was sitting next to my father, and there was a screen, like a movie screen, but there was nothing showing on it. The lights were on in the theater, and we're both just looking straight ahead toward the screen. And he put his arm around me, and we just sat there. And I got a feeling that he was telling me that he loves me, but he just couldn't say it out loud. That's the kind of the feeling that I got. So that has really stuck with me, and I think about that quite often.
Wow.
He was not one to, we didn't say I love you in my family when we were growing up. It was just not a thing. So that was just, I think that was his way of just letting me know that he's there and that he does love me. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember after your dad died that we did a reading. I did a reading for you. And what I found really interesting with your dad was that now he was a devout Catholic, right?
Right.
Was he a practicing Catholic?
So here, we went to church every single Sunday. We were forced to go. What I found out just a few years ago, which really surprised me, was that my dad never went to confession. When he was sick, and in the hospital, right, not too long, maybe a year or so, probably about 6 months before he finally passed, my mother and my sister asked him, do you want us to get a priest? And he said, no, I don't want a priest. So that tells me that he knew that he did some really horrible things and that he did not deserve to be forgiven. But he was he went to church even after all of us kids grew up, and there were 7 of us all together. Even after we all grew up and moved out of the house, my dad still went to church every single Sunday. I mean, he volunteered to do to bring the sacrament, just everything. He was just like all into that, but he never went to confession. And
That's
so he never
interesting.
took communion every Sunday.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
so he followed that. He followed the rule of if you don't go to confession, you don't take communion. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't follow that rule. I'm a recovering Catholic too.
After that, not too long after that, when he came through as Mr. Philosophical.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I don't know who you are, but you're not my dad.
That doesn't sound fair.
I remember him talking to you about ETs and giving you advice and doing this and that. And it was like a whole new individual, a whole new person. It was like he had shed his persona here in life. It was gone. It wasn't relevant to him anymore.
That is what happens, right? When we cross over, we're not that, I mean, probably initially when we cross over, we're the same person, but rather quickly we lose that persona that we have in this life, and we become who we really are.
My understanding is it's kind of like an old overcoat or an old car that just, doesn't work anymore. So you get rid of it. But that our personality obviously still stays. But it's kind of like a level of healing, a level of energetic raising that we do when the vibration goes higher, then you can't stay in the negative anymore. So the negative just automatically kind of drops away because your spiritual vibration is healing and getting higher in vibration. That was how someone described it to me. And I thought that's kind of interesting.
It also, not everyone is automatically enlightened.
Exactly.
A lot of people who are so entrenched with their identity here in the physical will keep that for a long time until they, whenever. And time doesn't exist over there. So our 40 years could be 3 seconds for them. But
so what's the purpose of them wanting to hold on to that, though? I mean, what are they just working through stuff or
fear? If they're still in the dense vibration of where we are in human realm, I think fear keeps a lot of them stuck and not listening to spirits trying to coax them over or trying to say, no, it's better over here. Trust us, like you will get rid of this pain. It will go away if you do this, and sometimes that fear and that guilt will keep them in the same vibration.
I got a really strong feeling that my dad did not feel like he deserved to go to quote unquote heaven.
Exactly.
So I think he was afraid. I know I was there with him probably a few months before he died, and I spent the night in his room. My family and I kind of took turns to spend the night because we didn't want him to be by himself. And he was not eating. He refused to eat. And to me, that was your body telling you it's time for you. Your body's preparing itself for the crossing over, right? Because you don't want nourishment. You don't feel hungry. And my siblings were having a really hard time with that. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to spend the night there tonight. I will have a conversation with him and figure out if he's ready to go. Maybe he's not ready to, I don't know. And I asked him, I told him that everybody was really concerned about him not eating. And maybe he's ready to go. And if he's ready to go, he doesn't need to hang around for us. He needs to just go. And it's okay if that's what he wants to do or he's ready to do. At that point, he was scared that once he crossed over, he was going to be in hell because of all the crap he's done in his life. So he was very much afraid. I hope at the end he did not have that fear, because that would be heartbreaking. I mean, I understand that, he came down here to play this role, right? This abusive person.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't who he truly is. And I know that spiritually, logically, I know that, but I still battle back and forth with being angry at him for,
of course,
just being the person that he was to us.
Yeah. It takes a lot to match your logic with your emotions.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're allowed to feel that way because you were the recipient of the abuse. So yes, we're playing roles, as it were, on this stage, but he had free will and made choices down here that probably weren't so great. And things were done to him, I'm sure.
Yes.
That weren't so great.
Done to him.
Right?
Yep.
Generational.
Yep.
So you breaking the chain is a huge thing. And him kind of not wanting to go over, I absolutely agree, has to do with judgment, has to do with him expecting, especially if he was with the Catholic Church, that there was going to be the judgment day for him as soon as he crossed over. And he was not wanting to experience that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It breaks my heart to think that there are people out there that are terrified to die because of they've done some things in their life that are not good, and they think that they're going to be going to this fire and brimstone place where the devil's going to be poking his pitchfork at him or whatever.
Devil's a clown.
Yes.
I agree. When I started working more professionally as a medium, not one person has ever come through to say that their transition was scary, was painful, was full of judgment. Not one.
Yes.
And I've been doing it 20 plus years, right? So
yes,
it amazed me that was the case because I was still in Catholicism when I first started too. Like I wasn't practicing as much, but I was still practicing back then. And to hear that there wasn't really a hell like it was described, and that there wasn't, the only judgment in the life review that I was being told was your own judgment and not that of anyone else. And other spirits, other guides would be there to support you and to stop you from beating yourself up as much, given that you've done things while in the human body.
Exactly.
That you really regret.
Yeah.
Not one has ever come across.
I agree. Same with me. And no one talks about religion. No one talks about science.
Nope.
No one talks about being in front of a panel or any kind of judgment. Nothing like that. It's all self-judgment. We judge our own selves. We're our worst critics to begin with. And we create whatever we want to create on the other side. We can do whatever we want to on the other side. And a lot of people decide to have jobs. A lot of people have had have had such a rough life that they just want some rest and relaxation. And so they're doing whatever they weren't able to do in life.
Sue, though, one of the things you told me when you did the reading about my dad, which really shocked the living crap out of me, was that he's on the other side and he's making cradles for babies.
Yes. He was with a group of World War II vets. And
he's military.
Cool. Yeah. And it was a group of vets.
Yeah. And when he was alive here, he loved little children, like babies. He just loved little babies. And knowing that he is over on the other side making cradles for babies that have passed over. I mean, that just made me cry. That just made me cry because that sounded so much like something he would do.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating that he loved babies? I don't know of a lot of men that actually love hanging around babies. Like the conversations I've had with some of my guy friends were like, you know what? My nieces and nephews, I waited till they could talk. Or, it's like the actual baby time period, the infant time period is not really on their high priority list.
Yeah. He loved my girls. My two oldest girls, they were the first grandchildren, my two oldest, and he just adored them.
And completely different than he is to his kids, I bet.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's funny.
Well, I've got a kind of a fun story about a visitation. I've had tons of visitations in my dreams. I've been a really prolific dreamer since forever, since I was young. And it was during my time volunteering for hospice. And I was sent this gentleman's name, and he was actively dying at one of the nursing homes. And so I went there to visit him. And I believe it was in the morning. And so I stayed a couple of hours. I left, came back in the afternoon to relieve the girl that was sitting there with him from hospice. I just sat next to him and I just was talking, and he's not even semi-conscious. He was unconscious, and it looked like he just had hours to go. And we talk about having a rally, and I think what happened to me with him was kind of another rally. I don't know whether he had one previously because I wasn't there when family was there or was able to talk to anyone in the family. I was talking to him, and he was a very large man. He was very tall, probably 6'3", and bulky. And he was older. He owned a construction company here in town. And so I was talking to him, and then I decided to give him a foot massage because sometimes when people are dying, it feels good for them. And it kind of gets the blood going and so forth. And so I was at the foot of the bed, and I was giving him a foot massage, both feet at the same time. And I'm looking at his feet, and I'm just massaging, and I look up, and he's awake and staring at me. And I went, "Hi." And he went, "Hi." So I went to his side, and I started talking to him. He was not responsive. That was the only thing that came out of his mouth. And I'm talking to him that I had just found out that he owned a construction company. And I said, I really wish I had known that after Hurricane Matthew, because I had scheduled a bunch of contractors to come to the house and redo my kitchen. And I'm telling him all of this, and he just went back to sleeping, and I'm just talking away. And I said, I'll be back to see you tomorrow morning. That night, well, it was early in the morning, so it would be the next day, early in the morning. It was around 4:20 that I woke up from a dream where he had come to me. He had built me the home of my dreams. He was in the kitchen delivering a brand new refrigerator, top of the line refrigerator. He had the house decorated exactly how I would decorate it. And there was this, the large circular tables that have the 3 legs that kind of go in entrance ways where you can put a large vase of flowers. That was there. I was just amazed, and he was in the overalls, and he looked exactly like a guy that has a program from Canada that goes and fixes up houses and helps people when other contractors have, really screwed things up. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he looked like that. He had on brand new overalls, and he had brand new work boots, and he looked fresh, and he looked clean, and he looked handsome and healthy. I'm about to cry. And I handed him a check, which was symbolic of me thanking him. I called the nurse from hospice to find out how he was doing, and she said he had passed at 4:00 in the morning.
Wow.
I had that dream at 4:20.
Wow.
Wow. 20 minutes to build a house. That's incredible.
Wow. It's amazing what you can do on the other side.
Amazing. That is the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
I know.
People in spirit, they love us. They want to help us. I'm going to cry. They want us to know that we're loved, that they are looking out for us, even though they cannot interfere in our earthly experiences. They can be there to guide us, to let them know that they're there in our life. It blows me away. That is one of the visitations that I will absolutely never forget. I thought it was the sweetest, most generous thing.
Very much
That's
so.
lovely.
That is just a precious story.
Wow. So what other common ways does spirit show up for us? Like,
Animals.
Strong presence in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Pressure on the bed, like somebody sitting, or an animal lying on the bed. Let's see. Feathers. Hearing your name called in a room.
That happened to me.
I've had that multiple times.
Yeah, me too. My dad. And it was in a way that would, like, when I was a kid, I thought I was in trouble. But he would tease me about it. Like, he would do it to tease me, not like I was ever in trouble when he said that. But it was always one of those things like, what'd I do?
Tom experienced something like that after his grandfather died, and his grandfather was out in the yard calling his name. but only Tom could hear it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's interesting. I had this experience.
cool.
I had this experience one time about the sitting on the bed thing or pressing on the bed thing. I had this experience where I was, in that twilight state, where you're in between, and I felt someone sit on my bed, and I said in my mind, please don't do that. That scares me. And this woman replied back to me. She said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And then I felt that.
Whoa.
I felt the thing, the bed, come back to normal. Like she stood up and then she just disappeared.
Wow.
That was so cool. She just felt so
I love
remorseful.
that.
Like she just felt horrible that she scared me like that.
I wonder what kind of conversation you might have had if you weren't scared.
Yeah. See, I stop myself all the time.
I
From
think
having
about that all the time.
Really cool experiences.
All right. We also have music, lyrics.
For sure.
Like certain songs that are familiar to you may just pop up as you're walking into a restaurant, the grocery store, hear a song on the radio. That's not just coincidence. I'm sorry. It just isn't.
I agree. I had an experience with my dad. I've had many, but this song, since he passed away, I just absolutely instantly choke up on. And I'd heard the song before he passed away. I knew the song. He wasn't a fan of the band that plays the song. He wasn't like someone who said, "This is my favorite song," and I knew it. I have no idea this connection to this song, but ever since he passed away, this song will make me choke up just in the intro. And it's God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. It's a beautiful song on its own.
It is.
But for some reason, that just, I mean, even thinking about it will get me choked up. And he's been gone 10 years, so it's not like I'm choked up every time I think about him. It's just this one song. And I can't figure it out. Is it just because the lyrics are so beautiful, or is it something that connects me to him that I didn't know about? My mom's like, he wasn't a huge, like, the 60s music was not his realm. He was older, so he was more into 40s and 50s music. So I have no idea why this song does it, but it's the only one that does.
Maybe it's just the lyrics of the song.
Maybe it is. God only knows just how much I love you.
Yeah.
If you should ever leave me. Yeah, it's probably that.
He may not have been familiar with it, but you are.
Definitely. Love that song. Always have.
You could have picked that out of your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking.
That's true. They do pull it out of, this is the Rolodex. Let's see what we can find in here.
That's right.
This will work.
All right. So have you guys experienced, I know you have, smelling perfume, smelling smoke?
Ooh.
Yep.
I have an interesting little story on that. I was at the Whaley House in San Diego. I worked at the Old Town San Diego Theater while I was in grad school. And on my break, I would walk down to the Whaley House because, haunted, hello, fun, museum. And I walk in. I'm at the ground level where there was also a courtroom at one time. And I'm in this room. I'm basically alone except for maybe one or two people walking by me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm smelling cigar smoke. Like, who the hell would be smoking a cigar? This is a museum. I'm getting pissed off. I'm like looking around like, who's doing that? And why isn't there like a staff member stopping them? Apparently Mr. Whaley shows up by smoking cigars. And I think my random mind was like, who's next to me smoking? It was that pungent. Like, who's next to me smoking a cigar? That is so stupid. Why are you doing this? Yeah. I'm yelling at a ghost, apparently. You didn't know.
I've had that happen to me before too, but it wasn't cigars. It was like, certain kind of flowers.
Yeah.
I would smell,
yeah.
but I didn't know, like it would just come out of nowhere, and it'd be in a place where you wouldn't think, like maybe my living room, and there's no flowers in my living room. I did this, this is a little bit different. I had this, experience where, having to do with a smell with a person that was alive and did not live in my city. And I was on the phone with him. And as I'm talking to him, I'm smelling like a powder, like a baby powder smell. And it wouldn't go away. And it was really, really strong. And finally I said, RC, are you wearing some kind of new cologne or something like that? Anyway, and he said, it's not cologne, but I bought this new powder that I just put on today. And I said, what does it smell like? And he said, it kind of smells like baby powder. Well, I smell it. He said, what? I said, I'm smelling it. And we don't even live in the same city, and we're having a phone conversation. That was weird.
That's cool.
Have you guys ever been touched? Somebody touching your hair or your shoulder or anything like that?
I just had that happen. I just had that happen a couple of nights ago when I was over at Nikki's, my daughter's, and I was sitting on the chair and we were in the living room and we were just chit chatting or whatever. And I felt somebody just kind of brush against my shoulder. And and there was nothing behind me. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And she said, what? And I said, I just felt somebody touch my shoulder. And she said, what? That was interesting.
I don't know if you ever met David Ponsler in one of our meetups, Terry.
David Ponsler. No, it doesn't sound familiar.
He is an iron worker. He is a true artist in ironwork. And Tom and I were over at his studio one time, and his father came through. And so I was asking him questions about his father. My right ankle, all of a sudden it felt like somebody was tickling my ankle. And I went, what the hell? I asked him, was your father kind of like a jokester? And he said, yeah, he was pulling stuff all the time. And it was like, well, he's tickling my ankle for God's sake. That's the first and last time that anything like that has ever happened.
Excuse me, consent counts even
seriously. Oh, wow. All right. And, and then sometimes symbols and coincidences could be like numbers appearing. Oh, yeah. Now, like the numbers 111 and 222, we didn't start paying attention to numbers like that until we had digital clocks.
Right.
And now a whole thing has been made out of it, with angel numbers and, showing up on clocks and this and that. There's a whole genre of people believing that they are getting messages from angels through numbers, and that's fine. That's sure. Meaningful to those people.
Yeah.
It's whatever is going to be meaningful to you. And then there's specific animals like redbirds, butterflies, dragonflies. But I have a cute story too. It's real short about a Native American. This was a story told to me, and he was on a vision quest, a young guy, probably in his 20s. And so he went out on his vision quest, went out into the woods. He might have been near a stream or something like that, and set up his camp. And he would be meditating outside of his however his setup was. And this raccoon kept coming. He was asking for his animal totem. And that's what the whole vision quest was about. And this raccoon kept showing up, and he kept shooing it away. And the raccoon just kept showing up. Wouldn't do anything, just sat there, just watching him, looking at him. And he'd shoo it away, and it kept coming back. And so he left his vision quest disappointed that his animal totem didn't show up. And so he was telling people about this raccoon that kept bothering him. And they said, dude.
Hello?
That reminds me. Oh, go ahead, Annalise. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it reminds me of the story of the guy in the sinking boat that asks God for help, and there's a helicopter and another boat passing by, and he's like, no, I'm waiting for God to help.
I was just going to say that.
That's awesome. Lord. I love it.
That's funny.
So anything, I know a lot of people like to have cardinals show up, and they even have cards and sympathy cards with cardinals on the front. I've seen those.
Yeah, when did that become a thing?
I don't know.
It's interesting.
I don't know.
It's not one of my signs, so I find it fascinating.
Yeah. And so all of these things, these synchronicities and things that seem like coincidences are not. We have to be open to receiving these messages. It's all coming from love and peace from those that are on the other side, as we call it. We just need to pay attention to repetition and relevance, the same number, song, animal, phrase, things that come in clusters that have some kind of meaning to you and have connection with your memories, and just stay open, receptive. You can do this through prayer, meditation, reflection, and just invite your loved ones in and your guides to show you clear, gentle signs that you can easily understand. Now, what I find really interesting, and I heard on the Mel Robbins podcast that she was talking about this. What's it called? RAS, which is
Reticular Activating System?
Yes. And that this is the part of the brain that's in the brainstem, and it helps to filter. It's a filter, actually, because she was saying that our brains process 34 gigabytes of information in a 24-hour period. And so our brain has to filter a lot of this out. So the reticular activating system, RAS, is a network of neurons in the brainstem that acts as a filter and arousal system for consciousness and attention. It helps regulate wakefulness, the sleep-wake cycle, and what sensory information reaches your conscious awareness. It is part of the reticular formation, a diffuse network of nerve pathways running through the brainstem and projecting upward toward the thalamus and cortex, often described as the brain's ascending arousal system, because its projections to the cortex are crucial for maintaining consciousness and basic alertness. And it regulates, it's like a gatekeeper for sensory input and filtering huge amounts of incoming information and allowing only selective, salient signals to reach conscious processing and focused attention. And so it prioritizes stimuli that is emotionally significant to us or personally relevant to us. If we open ourselves to receiving messages and signs from people who are deceased, our guides, angels, ETs, we can retrain our brain if we're not used to receiving these messages. You can retrain your brain to have messages happen more for you. And all we have to do is think about the messages that we would like to receive. And it may take a while to do this. It may take a while to retrain the brain and retrain the neural pathways and open yourself up to receiving messages and seeing signs and equate them to that this is not a coincidence. And if you, let's say someone is an atheist and they don't believe in signs and messages, well, that RAS system is going to get rid of that information because that person doesn't believe in it. So if it's a non-belief, the messages aren't going to exist for that person. And so I think our belief system is directly tied to that also and what's meaningful to us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would rather have verbal communication versus signs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, only because these signs, I talk myself out of believing that they're a sign. I
do that.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's just a coincidence or whatever. Like thinking about someone and then a song pops into my head that they loved or something like that. Or, I would much rather have verbal communication, which I don't know, is it more difficult for them to do verbal communication than just turning on the lights on my Christmas tree?
I think it depends on the person, don't you, Annalisa, and your level of acceptance and ability?
I know that when right after Noah died, and Noah was 15 when he took his own life, and he was the most kindest, sweetest person. Never wanted anyone to be upset. He would do anything and everything to try to make you feel better if you were sad. Just a very sweet boy. And it was maybe a couple of days after he had passed, and I was sitting at my desk, and I worked from home at the time, and I was sitting at my desk in my house and working, and I started thinking about him, and I just had a meltdown. I am just crying hysterically because I didn't understand what sign. Did we miss something? Why did he do this? And I kept saying, why, Noah? Why? Why did you do this? Oh my God, I'm going to cry. And so he talked to me and he said, I heard his voice like he was standing right next to me. And he said, don't you worry your pretty little head. Everything's going to be okay.
Wow.
Which made me cry even more.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because that was Noah. That's what he would do. If he saw you sad, he would just tell you everything's going to be okay. Don't you be sad. Don't you worry your pretty little head, is what he said. That was just unbelievable.
It's hard to dispute that.
I'm sorry?
It's hard to dispute that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was his voice. It wasn't my voice in my own head. It was his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And just as sweet and kind as Noah is, it was just unbelievable to me that, and that's the kind of communication that I know I can get. So I want that to happen all the time. I just want to hear their voice. I want them to physically, in my head, talk to me.
Yeah, I don't get a whole lot of signs. Every once in a while I do because I have direct contact, direct communication with people in spirit. So a lot of times I don't need signs.
Signs aren't necessary.
Yeah. But I did get one that recently because a client of mine wanted a reading, and it was 5 days after her sister had died. Now, her sister was also a client of mine and a friend, and she came through very strongly and gave a lot of information about her death and how she was present and experiencing her death, because she was very curious as to how her body was shutting down and the whole process of her own death. So she was very much aware of her own death. She talked about the afterlife, her perceptions of life, and so many other things. I asked my client if I could edit those parts out of the reading and put it up on as, I don't know if I put it up as, I did. I put it up on our other podcast, which is Abram Channeling with Tom and Sue Masseri. I put it up there, and we were talking, and I said, Liz was so kind and important to me. She wrote a very, very beautiful testimonial about my book, and I have that on the homepage of my website. And I wanted to do this to honor her, because there's also a story in the book about her and a very unfortunate and almost violent experience she had with a boyfriend that was living with her. And so that story is in the book also. And so I just wanted to honor her because she was so eager to allow me to tell that story. And so her sister said, absolutely, that's what Liz would want. And so I got everything edited. I was ready to upload it, and I had gone out to get something to eat, and I was coming back, and there was a podcast that I listen to occasionally from someone in Canada, and he's talking, and was a live show, and he was going through some of the comments, and then he pops up with, and now I'm not going to mention Liz's last name, I'll just say Liz R. And so he's going through the comments, and he said, now this next comment is from Liz R. And I thought,
what?
And she has an unusual last name.
Right.
Not a whole lot of people have that last name. And I went, holy shit. That to me was meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
That gave me absolute confirmation and permission to do what I was doing with that reading. I felt very, very good and very confident about putting that up as a podcast.
That's awesome. My dad was someone who believed in, well, he was very Catholic. So he believed in the Catholicism afterlife. He believed in saints intervening, that kind of thing. So when I started doing what I was doing, he was reluctant but supportive. He wasn't sure it was for real, that this mediumship thing, but he was supportive. When I got my license in San Francisco, because you had to do it in order to become legal with the city, and he put me through the whole process, which was pretty intensive, with fingerprinting and going to the police department and all that. And luckily my dad was a detective, so he walked me through the whole process. Always going to be grateful for that. But he was like, okay, sweetie, whatever. When he passed, I was beside myself, but I didn't break down until like a month later. I had a meltdown a month later. I had kept it in. And you, Susie, were the one who said, you haven't grieved yet. I'm like, yeah, I'm grieving this whole time. What do you mean? No, he's saying you haven't grieved yet. I'm like, okay. And you were absolutely right. The depth of it didn't come up until like a month later.
Yeah.
So when he first died, I went out with my friend Todd. Susie, you've met Todd. He's now my tenant upstairs. And Todd took me out. He was brilliant at dealing with me. He said, let's just go to a movie. Like, we don't have to talk. We don't have to do anything. Just go to a movie. So that's what we did. We went to a movie, picked me up, and he's got a Coke can. And he's like, yeah, I don't drink regular Coke. So if you want it, it's yours. I'm like, yeah, great. No problem. He got it at a gas station. And I picked it up, and it was when Coke said names on them, and it said Dad. And I'm like, Todd, did you do that on purpose? It's like, no, I didn't even read it. I'm like, all right, Daddy, if that's you, I need a bigger sign. And I totally dismissed it because it said Dad. And I went, whatever. So like a month later or a week later, we went out again to another movie, and we got the concession stand, and there's this, pimply 17-year-old saying, our fountain is broken. So we've got some bottles in a kind of canister over there. And so I didn't even look. I was talking to the kid. I grabbed a bottle like this and put it on the table, and it said Marty, which is my dad's name. And I instantly start the waterworks, and I'm looking at the thing with all the bottles, and I went through every single bottle, and there was not another one that said Marty. So me not looking, grabbed a bottle that said Marty.
Wow.
Todd looks at me and he goes, you wanted a bigger sign, and he walks away like nothing. This poor 17-year-old's watching me like just fall apart in front of him over a bottle of Coke, and he's not understanding what's going on.
Oh,
But that was my dad.
that's awesome.
Wow.
And then I went out with my mom to explain everything that happened. We went to a lunch, and we're sitting there, and the waitress brings over her Diet Coke as I'm telling her this story, and it said soulmate. And both of us lost it at the table.
Wow.
Oh my
The
God.
waitress was like, "Are you okay?" Or, "No, we're fine. It's good. We're fine." But it was a lovely string of events that happened, all based around what Coke did for a time period with their names.
Wow.
That is so cool.
That
That's
is,
That is so cool.
that is so specific.
Yeah.
It was so specific. Like,
Yeah.
Marty, you know? Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, she didn't like Dad, so I'm just going to give her my name.
Exactly. I was not.
Dad is
I mean,
too generic.
I thought it was generic. I thought it was great, but I'm like, that's, we can do better, Dad. And I wasn't even thinking that I wanted specifically this to happen.
Yeah, that's enough. That's not enough, Dad. That's just not enough.
I want a little more, please. What did he deliver?
Oh man.
So cool.
Wow. So Terry, I know you had an experience with a friend of yours whose father died.
Oh, yeah. So we're not friends anymore, but had a friend who had a father. I know that's
Novel.
crazy, but
Crazy.
they lived together. My friend took care of him in his older age, and I would go over to their house to visit my friend, and his father's name is Art, and Art was just this sweetest old man, and feisty, and kind of like a dirty old man even. I mean, he had a crush on me, and every time I come over, he would I want you to be my girlfriend and all this stuff, just teasing me and whatnot. I just loved him. He was just so funny and so cute. Now, my friend never really told me too much about his relationship with his dad, so the only thing I knew was really what I experienced personally between Art and myself. His dad got sick, and and my friend wanted me to go and see him at the hospice place, even though Art wasn't conscious. He was unconscious. And I decided to, I wanted to do that for him. So I went, and I had an experience. There's two parts to this story. When I got to the hospice place, my friend was there, and his brother and his brother's wife was also there in the room. And I walked in, and I stood next to Art, and I took his hand, and they wanted to know if I was going to pick up anything from their dad, because he had been hanging on for such a long time, and they didn't understand why he wasn't leaving, why he wasn't dying. So I took Art by the hand, and he spoke to me, and I saw a side of Art that I did not know existed. I mean, he was like mean. He said, "I'll die when I fucking feel like dying. Don't rush me. I'm not ready to go." And I'm going, and I'm getting this messages from him, and I'm going, should I even say this? Like, I don't even know if I should even say this. But
Wow.
So I was very hesitant, and I said, I don't know if I should. Oh, no, you got to tell us. So I told him. And then my friend Phil said, "Oh my God, that sounds just like my dad." And so I think he hung on for maybe 3 or 4 more days, and then he passed away. About a couple of weeks probably after Art died, I went over to Phil's, and we were just hanging out, and he said it got kind of late. We were watching movies or whatever, and it got kind of late, and he said, you can spend the night, because he lived at the beach and I lived like 30-40 minutes away. So I was kind of hesitant about it. He said, "You can sleep in my dad's room." And at first I was like, "Ooh, that's I don't know if I want to do that."
Oh, weird.
But I said, "Oh, all right, that's fine. I'll," because it was late and I didn't feel like driving all the way home. So I spent the night. I went into Art's room, and Phil had given me some pajamas of his, and not his dad, but Phil's pajamas. So I laid down to go to sleep, and I'm feeling a little weird being in Art's bedroom. And then I fell asleep, and then I had this dream, and in the dream, I could see Art sitting in the chair that he always sat in the living room, and Phil coming up to him with some food, and Art just laying into him, like just horrible, just saying, horrible things to Phil. Just mean and just, I don't even remember what it was. It was just horrible, horrible stuff. Condescending, just horrible. And Phil didn't say anything back to his dad and then walked away. So the next morning I remembered the dream and I was just horrified because that wasn't the Art that I knew. That was just so weird. And I thought, should I even tell Phil what I dreamt? I don't know. I was really kicking it around. Should I tell him? Should I not tell him? Because it wasn't a very flattering dream about his dad. And I got up. We were sitting in the kitchen. We were having breakfast, and it just kept coming, like pushing. Like, you need to tell him. You need to tell him. That was the feeling I got. You need to tell him. You need to tell him. So finally, I said, okay, look, I had a dream about your dad last night, and I said it's not very pleasant, and it really made me sad. But I'm going to tell you anyway because I feel like somebody's pushing me to tell you. So I did. I told him what happened, and he said, that was very typical of my dad. That's the way my dad was to me. And I said, Phil, are you serious? Why didn't you ever tell me that your relationship with your dad was like that? He said, I just didn't talk about it. I didn't want people to know. I said, but he was such a sweet man every time I came over, and he said that was to you, but to me, he was mean and nasty and condescending and just a horrible person. He said that was absolutely my dad. That was really shocking to me. And then a few weeks later, we were at a meetup group and we were we're talking metaphysics and spirits and things like that. And there were several people in the room, and all of a sudden Art came to me. He came to me, and in visions, he showed me why he was such an angry person. I'm trying to remember exactly what the story was. Oh, I remember what it was. So Art was telling me that he fell in love when he was very young and he was in the military. He fell in love with this woman and she broke his heart so bad that he ended up hating women, like not respecting women, just using women. He was just so angry at women. He's showing me all these visions of the way he used to treat women and how he used them. And it just turned him into a really angry, horrible human being. So I'm sitting there and I'm having all this stuff come through, and everybody else is just talking about, hit myself. All this random stuff. And I just interrupted. I just said, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt. I said, Phil, I have something I need to tell you. And so I explained to him about his dad and where his anger came from. And he was never the same after that woman had broke his heart so badly. Phil was in tears. He was saying, I never knew that. He never had heard that story. And he said, now I kind of understand some things. Now, Phil knew that his dad hated women, but he didn't know why he hated women. And so he started telling us when he was a teenager, his dad was cheating on his mom, and he would take Phil to go visit other women. And even when he was younger, he would have Phil sit in the living room while he would go back in the bedroom and have his way with these women. Then he even would have sex with Phil's girlfriends. I mean, it was just horrible. He was just a womanizer, a horrible human being to women. And it was all due to this woman who had broke his heart so bad. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow.
It was, yeah. So after that happened, that just made me feel so gross. Not gross. That's not the right word. That just made me feel so bad for Phil, and just, kind of made me feel gross to see Art that way, because that's not the way I saw him.
Sure, I think gross is an appropriate word.
Yeah, maybe.
I find it interesting because you hear stories, this kind of relates to, it's off topic, but when abuse happens in a family, one person could have one experience and another, say, sibling,
absolutely.
have a completely different experience. And as an only child, I don't understand that. So it's fascinating to me that's come out in kind of what you're saying around Phil too. Like, your experience with him was not at all this kind of person, but his son was like, oh yeah, that's it. That was exactly what I went through.
Yeah. So he was really grateful that I ended up telling him that, because it answered a lot of questions that he had about his dad, and it kind of helped him to not be so angry at him.
But why did he blame his son? Did you ever find that out? I mean, why it was directed towards his son so much? Because if he didn't like women because of what happened, why is he?
He was just a nasty man all around. He was just angry. It made him so angry at the world, not just at women, but he was just angry because he had been hurt so badly. Exactly. And it's amazing how we can affect another person's complete life just by the way we treat them or what we do to them in a negative way, and how that can impact someone for the rest of their life and turn them into people that are not very nice.
Yeah.
I don't think we really realize how much impact we have on other people, the things we say to them and the things we do to them. It's mind-boggling.
It really matters how we treat people and how we treat ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to be very blunt, and there's a saying that if your parents fuck you up, it's their fault. If you stay that way, it's yours.
I agree.
No matter how we've been treated, if we do not take responsibility for our own emotions and our own experiences and how we process things, in order to evolve, we must do that. Otherwise, we're going to be victims, have a victim mentality, blame the world, blame other people for everything. And it all roads lead to us. So the first thing for me in healing and evolvement is taking responsibility for your own emotions. And that story is so sad for me, but it's also very enlightening for Phil too.
Oh, yeah.
And you probably really changed his whole life.
I agree.
Maybe.
And the way that he thought about himself and viewed life. I'm sure it's in his consciousness now.
Yeah.
It's up to him what he does with it.
Right.
It's so, the choices that the ability to make choice is so crucial in our development. And, abuse is such a hard thing because, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to have these feelings that are overwhelming and painful, but to move through them is going to be the key to you not becoming a victim or you not becoming a perpetrator, in fact, as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no right to say that to somebody who's gone through an enormous amount of abuse. So I don't blame them for what they're turning into or what they're like.
Sure.
But the reality is you got to get yourself out of that. And it's the same with grieving, because when I have a client who comes to me who's grieving so hard, I don't like to do readings. I mean, the person can come through, sure, but it's such a thick, dense energy to get through somebody's grief to give a reading that I usually say, wait about 3 months. Yes, of course I can do it the day after or the day of. That's usually when they're strongest, quite honestly. But for the person that's grieving, it is so hard to get through to them sometimes. Because they need to get through it.
Yes, yes. I had a client. She was new. I'd never done a reading for her before. She came to me and I started the reading and nobody came through. I could feel someone there, but nothing. I got no information, nothing. So I told her, I don't think this is the time. I said she was going on a trip and she said that her son had died. She would, I think I scheduled her for maybe a month later or a couple of months later. And I just felt like that trip was going to be a change for her. Something was going to happen for her. And that there was a reason that no information was coming through. I said, we just need to reschedule and you need to go on that trip. And so when she came back, her son came through and it was just a beautiful reading.
Wow.
But
That's cool.
if they know how we're feeling. They know what our emotions are and how we're feeling and what we're going through.
So I just remembered the end of that reading that I did for Phil. His dad, when I do these kinds of things, I'm sure you guys the same way. I feel their pain. I feel what they feel. And after Art showed me all of that stuff that he did, I felt his regret. I felt his pain. I felt his sorrow. And he told me to tell Phil that he is so, so sorry.
Yeah.
And he was. I mean, he was just he felt so bad that he had treated his son that way and he didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So I got to tell him that too at the end. So that was
healing, just the healing that came from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it took me, but you guys are really, you guys have done this so many years that you are able to protect yourself from all of that sadness. I can't do that. It overwhelms me and it makes me feel so sad for days.
That's hard.
How do you, Annalisa, how do you process when you get emotions?
It took me a while because I'm way too empathic sometimes. So I'll just pick up on stuff and not before I can even, do whatever I need to do. There are some simple things like take a shower and imagine the shower being white light that's cleansing you. I mean, do something that works for you as a cleansing to get it off of you, because oftentimes that energy will linger because there's, you're just a human being who can feel and who understands how the depth of that kind of pain for someone else. But in order to take it on, like I had to stop doing Reiki because I was starting to take on the illnesses. So I will do Reiki, but mostly at long distance. I won't do like a full session where I'm touching the patient anymore. Going out into nature, walking by the water, things that get your mind off of it and your body moving sometimes has a really good effect of releasing some of that. But it's not a full 100% for me either. I will take on some of that stuff. What do you do, Susie?
Before reading, I'll let people know, because sometimes I sit here and I've just got tears dripping down my face. And I tell people that the emotions that are coming through are the emotions of the people in spirit. These are not my emotions. And so I allow all of their emotions to come through, and I may be crying and telling them and giving them information and telling them things that are healing for them. And I know that that's not my emotions. I have been able to separate my emotions and step aside so I can allow them to come through and with all of their emotions. And so once the reading is over, I don't do anything to close myself off, but I know in my psyche that those are their emotions and not mine. Now, being empathic, I pick up on Tom's emotions a lot. And I have to sometimes stop and think, wait a minute, I'm feeling angry, but I have no reason to be angry. So it must be him. And he's a very impatient person. He gets angry. He yells at the computer.
Yeah.
So for me, I just let it go. But there have only been 2 readings in my life where it took days to let go of. It was the woman who was brought up in a satanic cult, and then a vulnerable narcissist. And I don't like really talking about either one because it just left me feeling in this darkness.
Yeah.
And it took a few days to shake off.
That's really some thick kind of molassesy.
Yes.
Energy.
Exactly. Sticky. Yeah.
What's weird is that I actually take on this person's personality almost. Like the person is inside of me and I can feel everything that they feel. And sometimes it's just not pleasant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not pleasant.
I think that's attached to your channeling abilities.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I hadn't made that connection before.
Yeah. When that happens, and it's somewhere along the line you've kind of consented to it, I assume, whether you're conscious of it or not. There's like a period where you're actually inhabiting the person's personality. I sort of do that, but it's like me and them. Like I know that it's them doing it. It's hard to explain, but it's not something that I really want someone to take over completely. So I'm like kind of boundarying myself spiritually around that. But I have had experiences where I started saying things in the same way, or had a physical thing that had happened that was just like the other person did. And I enjoy when that happens, but I also get a little afraid of that. So I need to relax into that kind of channeling more.
Well,
sounds like your way.
Tom and Abram have both explained to me, and they explained this to me a long, long time ago, years ago, is that when Tom channels and when I do mediumship, when Tom channels, it's not like Abram takes over. They have a merging of consciousnesses. And so that happens also in mediumship. We merge with the consciousness of the person coming through.
Yeah.
And it's real tricky. I know you've been through this, Annalisa, that it's a little tricky to understand and know there's so many different ways of how energy works and how people come through with a different kind of energy. And it's all about feeling and interpreting. And we have a much harder job, I think, than people who are authentic channels.
I think that's true. Because in a way, in channeling, you get yourself out of the way, right? I mean, that surrender part is the difficult part.
Yeah, you have to get yourself out of the way, both with channeling and mediumship. But channeling, like Tom, he doesn't remember anything.
Exactly.
So Abram, his source, merges with Tom's consciousness, and he doesn't. He works. I mean, it takes a lot of energy for him to do this, but he tells me, he said, I don't know how you do what you do. He said, I wouldn't be able to put up with some of the stuff that you put up with.
Really? That's fascinating.
Yeah. Because depending on the client, you really have to have some skills in psychology too, like the friendly bartender.
Exactly. Hairdresser, bartender.
Yeah.
You are definitely their
Yeah.
therapist for the next half hour.
Yeah. So anyway, so to wrap this up, do you guys have any suggestions for people and how to open up themselves to just being aware of things that this little synchronicities and coincidences in life, and to pick up on things that are meaningful to each individual? Do you have any final advice?
I do. I tell people to write it down. Don't make a judgment about it. Don't believe it or not believe it. Just write down whatever. Because usually if something strikes you, if something rings a bell inside of you, that has meaning. Mm-hmm. So keep a record of when that happens and what those things are, and then look back on them instead of immediately going, that wasn't real. That wasn't, anything. Because I think that blocks the energy.
Yeah.
If you're constantly dismissing stuff.
That's a good idea.
If you're over believing absolutely everything is a sign, that's a problem too. So I think writing it down might help you ground it more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also don't just kind of along the same lines. Don't discount when something happens and you associate it immediately to someone or something in your life. Don't discount it. But again, I totally agree with what you just said, Annalisa. There are some people out there that everything is a sign. Sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes coincidences just happen, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, true. This is life.
Yeah. So just if it feels like it's not a coincidence, then chances are it's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Maybe if you get warm and fuzzies from it, just always check in with your emotions. Yeah.
And even if it is just a coincidence and it makes you feel warm and fuzzy, then take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. It's a combination of the synchronicity itself and your physical reaction to it, your emotional reaction to it. I think that's kind of like the partnership. Mm-hmm. Because if something happened and you thought, but it didn't have like this kind of resonating feeling for you, maybe it is a coincidence. But regardless, write them down and see, how you feel about them later. But I think it's a combination. Like the song, for instance, when I say that my hearing of that song would just hit instant reaction of crying, and not crying because the crying was really because I felt my dad close and couldn't touch him. Mm-hmm. When you're grieving, I think people don't realize that that's kind of what they're going through sometimes, is they're feeling that person right here, but they're not, physically there. So they can't have the physical, they can't have the touch, they can't have the hug. And I've often said that to people and they've gone, dang, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like I'm frustrated. That's what the tears are. Frustration that I can't actually see you, touch you again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So friends, we hope that this segment has given you some good information. It may validate some of your experiences and information that you have. We are here for you. We love you. We are interested in your personal growth, and we hope that you will come back and visit this podcast. So
and share it too.
Yeah, share, please. Share
like experiences with the past loved ones, anything that happened. I love stories like that.
We are in the process of building a website, and we will have an email associated with Metaphysical Hippie Chicks 2.0. And so we will let you know when that's up and running. And we would love to hear from you. Love to hear your experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So take care. We love you, and we will speak again.
Okay.
All right. Very soon. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Please check out the amazing David Ponsler and his metal designs at ponslermetaldesign.com. And if this episode resonated with you, please follow us, rate, and share it on your favorite social platforms. And tag us so we can connect and grow this community together. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you next time.